Start out by telling kind of how you got started and what your journey has looked like so far.
Okay, perfect. Well, hi everybody. I'm Rochelle. I got started about 3 years ago with It Works, and let's see, I actually had never heard of It Works before. So this is a part of my story that like I'm social media. I'm all social media. But how I heard about it was actually I was babysitting for one of my friends and she was taking off a wrap. She had just gotten home and she was getting ready for a wedding and she was like taking off a wrap and throwing it away. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, what is that? What are you doing? And she had just had a baby and I had never had any kids at this point. And I was like, her stomach looks better than mine. Like, what in the world is this thing? I need it. I know people that need it. And so I got started just by thinking that all we sold was the wraps. That was it. And so I signed up, I put it on my credit card because I did not have any money whatsoever, but I knew people that needed this wrap. And so that's how I got started. And I had a $10,000 credit card that I needed to pay off. And I was in school full time to become an accountant. I was working as an office manager at the time and super busy. And I just like dove in and really got to work. But I was a slow starter, you guys. I didn't sign my first loyal customer for almost a month. I didn't sign my first DT for the same amount of time. And then I didn't go executive for over 8 months. So it took me 8 months to just get two people up and running, like with me doing all of the work mostly. And then I went to conference that year. So I put it on a credit card because one of my friends said, you know what, you cannot afford to not be there. You've got to go. And I'm from Oregon, you guys. So right now I'm in Florida, but I'll get to that part in a second. So I was from Oregon and I was flying all the way across the country. I didn't know anybody and I just knew that I had to get there. And they announced a $10,000 bonus for anybody who went diamond. And I always think it's so important to tell you guys that like I was not boxed or charted for anything. Like it was executive. That's it. I had no other people on my team. I had two people on my team. And I went diamond in 45 days when I got home from conference. So that fire was lit. And I am telling you, like back then, the diamond chart even looked different than it did now. There was so many more people that needed to be on that chart. And anyway, so I went diamond, executive to diamond in 45 days. I skipped all the other promotions and just got that done. I earned that $10,000 bonus. And then my journey from there was I maintained diamond very, very well for like a year. Okay. And I was like pushing for double that whole time, but I was just like not getting there. And there was a lot of growth that needed to happen. And so while I was maintaining that, there's actually a part of, I don't know if you want me to go into like everything right now, or do you want me to just
Everything, girl, everything.
Okay. So at Diamond, it was December and I had been maintaining all the way from March. Okay. And like, I mean, almost double volume maintaining, and everything crumbled and fell in December. And I was paid as executive. Okay. And at this point, I had just found out, first off, sorry, I quit my job at a diamond because I was making really good money. And I was like, you know what? I don't need this anymore. Like, I'm just going to focus solely on It Works. And when we fell to executive, I actually found out that I was pregnant with my little girl, and everything like flashed in front of my eyes. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go back to work. Like, I'm going to have to get insurance. Like, there's no way that I can keep this up. And I let those thoughts consume me of like, I failed. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, there's no way. And I am not a quitter, you guys. I am like red through and through. I've never quit anything in my entire life. And I was like, this is just like, maybe this is just not for me. Like, I prayed and prayed on it. And I'm like, maybe God just doesn't want me to have this business in my life because I've got to go back to work. I can't make ends meet. Right. And so defeated. And then, so I ended up going back to work less than like, oh my gosh, what was it? It was like 3 weeks later, my little brother, who is my best friend, and I don't tell this part of my story very often, but it's something that I think I know propelled me to where I am now. And so it might seem a little bit off track, but I'll get back on it for you guys. So, my little brother is like my best friend in the entire world. Okay. We were raised by a single father and he did the best that he absolutely could. My little brother is like the best person. He's a father himself, but he was 21 years old at the time. And something so catastrophic happened that month. So I lost rank, right? So everything was just down in the dumps. And then I got a call that my little brother was in a car accident and somebody in the vehicle with him died. And this was his roommate calling me, and all they said was, the truck is completely totaled. It's not even like recognizable, and somebody died. That's all we know. Okay, so I am like pregnant at this point, not eating, not sleeping. All I hear is that somebody died and I didn't know who it was. Thank God it was not my brother, but somebody in the truck did die. And my little brother was now facing a manslaughter charge. He was going to be in prison for 6 years over, I'm not going to go into the whole entire thing, but this shattered me. Like, it completely shattered me. And again, losing rank, I didn't really have any money, like, and him being in jail, like, it was $110,000 for his bail. Okay. So that means like, it was like 10% up front. I think that you had to pay cash or something. And then you could put the rest, like my dad had to put his house up for the rest of it. Okay. So like all of this happening, and I'm sitting here like praying to God on my knees, like, how can I help him? How can I help my dad who had just gotten himself out of debt? And through this part of my story, I'll wean it back in. I started working for the unknown. Like, I started working for the what ifs in my business, because this was something that I never saw coming. Okay. This was like a catastrophic event that you cannot plan for. And I guess a pregnancy is kind of like that too. I wouldn't call it catastrophic, but it was something that I wasn't like prepared for. Okay. I wasn't trying to get pregnant at that time. So just everything in my life was just blowing up in front of me. And I remember, I'll never forget this. My dad had just paid off all of his debt, and he was on the phone with a lawyer. Okay. My brother's in jail at this point, and he's on the phone with a lawyer, and he's handing me these credit cards that have not been activated. And he's like shaking, saying, call and activate this, like, just for us to try to get him out of jail. And it was right before Christmas. This was all happening. And the lawyer was $5,000 just to speak with him on the phone. Was $5,000. Okay. So like, just to set up the first meeting. And so all of this, I'm telling you this because all of this is happening, and I'm sitting here like making all this money, like almost double diamond, right? My dad thinks that I have savings. Everybody thinks that I'm going to be able to help. And I'm sitting there like, I have nothing. Like I can like give you all of my savings, and that is it. And I felt like I had failed my family right then. I felt like I couldn't help when that was all I've ever wanted to do, right? As my dad has done so much for us kids, that like I couldn't help him in that situation, and it destroyed me. And so we ended up getting him out, and God just really worked his magic on so many things, you guys. It brought our family closer to God. It brought our family back together, which was something that needed to be done for a long time. But what it really showed me was how much I needed to lean on God in family, business, everything. And I just started praying over everything in my business, over my charts, over the people that I had given up on, because I'd given up on myself, right? And so within 2 months, we had promoted to double diamond. So by February of that next year, 2 more months, we promoted to double diamond. And I earned a $15,000 bonus, I believe. And by the time my brother went to trial, which was a whole year later, so a whole year I had to like save and like get all of this stuff ready for in case we had to pay more money and all these things. It ended up being almost $50,000 for all the trials, everything. And thank God he only got 2 years, and he is in prison right now. He got a minimum. And so he will be out in 1 year. He's already done 1 year time, or 1 year's time. And I was able to help my dad with all of that debt, like completely all of that debt. And I tell you this part of my story because it might seem like I don't tell it often because it's so long and it's so out there, but this is what changed for me. Like, this is what made me realize, like, I can't just work for right now. Like, that $2,000, $3,000 a month diamond paycheck was awesome. That's all I needed right then, right? And then when that fell, it was like, well, I mean, it's okay. Like, I can still go back to work. Like, I didn't have anything on the line. And then something like this happens, and you just start to look at the bigger picture, and you're like, what if this happens? And what if this like, I wanted to be prepared for things that could happen. And so that is what lit that fire. And then last year, we double promoted back to back. We went triple and pres in February and March. And when we did that, I always have to let you guys know this, because this was something that I do not even know, other than how incredible our team is. We went triple diamond with 55,000 in volume. Okay, so you need 50,000 in order to go triple, right? So we went with 55,000. That's it. And I say that's it because, like, hear me out. The next month we promoted to presidential, and you need 100,000. So you need almost 50,000 more than what we had, right? And or 45,000 more. But anyways, in 1 month, our team did that. So like, whatever you need, if you're struggling to maintain, if you're struggling to get to that next promotion, and you're like, I remember looking at my charts like a couple years ago and being like, oh my gosh, I'm like 3,000 away. Like, I don't think I can do it. And then you look at this team that is like, oh my gosh, we're 50,000 away. Like, we're doing it. Like, we can get this done. Like, no amount of number of volume or distributors or placements or whatever you need is too much. Like, trust me, if you have the right people and if you are really have your priorities in check, like, you can do all things. So that's, oh, and Brian is always like, you always tell your story, and my husband, and he's like, you always tell your story and then you forget that, like, we're traveling the country right now. And I always forget to say that. But in the midst of all that, we sold our house. We were able to, or I'm sorry, we put our house up for rent. We sold our other house. We bought a house, put it up for rent, and bought this trailer. And we're able to, the last 7 months, we've been traveling with our 1-year-old. And we're in Florida right now.
That's so awesome. I mean, that is a crazy story, but I think it is so true. Like, people join this business for like the right now, and then they forget about like the bigger picture of, medical bills, medical expenses, unforeseen, just different things that you could never plan for. I mean, not like, even looking at my life, it's like something's wrong with the engine of your car. It's a casual $4,000. Like, it's like there's little things that just add up as well, just from adulting and having kids and the medical expenses and all that stuff that just pops up. But I love that. That is amazing. I think just to feel that shift that happened, and then the shift that you put into action. Because I think, and I was talking to my leaders about this, is like, you can mentally say, oh, all this stuff shifted, and then you don't actually change anything with how you're working. What is something that, like, mentally you had to struggle, like, that you struggled with, that you felt like stopped you from executive moving forward until conference?
Oh, for me, it was growth. It was like personal development. I didn't even know what it was. So when I joined, that girl that had the wrap on, like, she didn't train me. They quit the business. Her and her friend that helped me join quit the business when I went diamond. So, like, they were like doing things here and there, but I didn't have any guidance whatsoever. And so I didn't even know what personal development was. They didn't go to conference with me. It was just something that I like saw in the team page. I like randomly saw a live that was like, you can't afford not to be there. And I was like, I think I'm going to do it. Like, I just have to do this. And so when I was there, I saw like that everybody was doing self-development. I saw that that's what they were talking about. I saw that, it was so important to grow within yourself in order to like level up. And that's exactly what it was. I was sitting there like, well, how am I ever going to promote if nobody is ever going to work on my team? And it was all about like everybody else. And like, I can't find anybody that wants to work. Nobody's going to ever do this with me. And really, it was just the fact that like, it wasn't about whether they were working or not. Like, what's crazy is when I went diamond, I think there was like 2 out of all 24 of them that were actually like working. Do you know what I mean? But you don't need that. Like, you can do this. You can do it all on your own. It's just a matter of that mindset shift of like, I'm going to do this come hell or high water. And you just have to be willing to take quitting off the table. I think that's the first thing that you have to do is like, no matter how long it takes me, you just have to take quitting off the table.
I love that. So what do you feel like you wish you could tell yourself, like, when you were doubting yourself, like when you were just like in those times? Because everybody has those times. And I think like people look at people who are VIPs or, even diamonds and above, and they're like, oh, they just don't have bad days. Like, or
Oh man.
they just don't struggle the way that I struggle. Or they don't know what it's like to X, Y, or Z, to have no time or whatever. Like, what would you like, number one, say to those people? But number two, what's something you wish you could tell yourself, like when you were struggling back then, that you wish you would have known like 3 years ago?
Oh man, I wish that I would have told myself that I was worth it and that the people on my team were worth it, because I think in the back of my mind, it was all about self-worth. It was all about like, okay, you can do this, but like, do you deserve it? Like, do you deserve more money than $2,000 a month? Do you deserve more money and like more freedom in your life? Like who am I to deserve this? And I really struggled with that. And so I wasn't doing the right personal development, like I was listening to things but I wasn't really tapping into like that deep stuff. And I think you really have to figure out like what you need right now, because I can tell my team all day long, like, oh, hey, go listen to this book or go listen to this, or this was great. But like, if it's not going to resonate with them and what they need, I could have told them to go listen to something that's like the 10x rule. Like you just need to 10x everything, but really they're struggling with self-worth. They need a different book for that. They need something else that's going to really challenge them and help them. And so I think for me, I would have just told myself, like, dig deep and figure out like, what is that barrier? What is holding you back? Because when I was going diamond, like when I was executive to diamond, that shift was like, I didn't have any fear. I let go of all of that. And I knew that I needed that $10,000 to pay off my debt. And so it was like I said, come hell or high water, like I was going to do whatever. No, I mean, of course, doubt seeped in. I remember I was filling out the boxes on the chart and I would like highlight them green when they got to like over 400. And each and every time I would be like, okay, I only need 17 more DTs. And Brian would be like, well, that's a lot, And I'm like, no, I only need 17 more. Like, we got this. And I remember that excitement. And it was like nothing was going to stop me. And I lost that along the way. Like, you're going to have bad days. I still have bad days, like you're going to have bad days. But what I'm really learning right now is how to get yourself out of those bad days or those negative thoughts, and like how you can do it as quick as possible.
Yeah, I love that. And I think so many times that like we feel like, okay, like I had the bad day, I got over it, like they're not going to happen again. And then they happen again. And it's not that I always say like it's not that the bad days don't come or the bad thoughts don't come or the doubts don't come. It's how much rent space are you allowing it in your head? And how quickly can you get rid of it? It's like when you first start working out, you're sore for like 7 days. Like, and
Mhm.
like when you first start having those bad thoughts, it's like a week of bad thoughts and like till you snap out of it. But as you keep going to the gym or as you keep growing in your self development, you like you won't really struggle that long. Like it'll go away quicker. You'll learn how to snap yourself out of it, and each person needs something different. What did you do to really increase your self-worth? Because I think that's like kind of like a broad term. People are like, oh yeah, I just had to increase my confidence or I had to see that I was worth it. Like, what was that you feel like that triggered it? Was it just you seeing that you could do diamond? Was it seeing, the fact that was part of it that you had a daughter and you were like, if I'm not worth it, she's definitely worth it? Was it,
Yeah,
what
a
was it?
lot. I think a lot changed. I think at first it was that I had to really like give it all to God. And that was something for me that was really hard. I'm somebody that has always been a believer, but I always also did everything on my own. Like, no, 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 I can do this on my own. I can do it. Like, I'm not going to go to him for help if like I could do it all on my own. When in reality, like I was creating that tension. I was pushing myself further away because I wasn't allowing him to guide where I needed to be. And when I started really giving it all to God, I remember when we went from double to triple was actually a really big growth season for me. I started having it not be about me anymore. And when I did that, like I literally threw out my double chart. Like, nope, I'm done. Like I was trying so hard for like almost a year to get to double. And I was like, this isn't working. Like I'm done with this because I was making it all about me. And I wanted all of these boxes filled because I had done it for diamond, right? I mean, I'm not saying I didn't have any help with that, but like I had pretty much done it. And so I was like, I can do it again. Like, why can't I just do this on my own? And then I really started digging down and seeing like who who deserves or needs on this team an extra $500 a month. Who can I help? Who can I lock arms with? Who can I show how to actually do this? Because I was like a massive control freak. I was like, I can do it all. I can just do it all. Instead of really figuring out like, no, success comes with numbers, and you need to be able to like delegate things and help others see how to be a leader too. Because otherwise, like I got to a point in my business where I had so many people popping up and promoting, because I was like focusing. I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to promote this person. Then I'm going to promote this person. And then I'm going to promote this person. And it would be like me just like kind of bulldozing over them in a way of just like, I'm just going to get you there. And then they couldn't maintain their rank, right? Like, I don't know if anybody has ever had this happen in your business, but like, you're like, wait a second, like I just helped you get here, right? This is sounding super selfish, but hear me out. This is something I had to learn. I just helped you get here, and like now you're not maintaining. Well, yeah, if you like basically just hand somebody something and you're like, okay, like I know you don't know anything about it, but like you have to learn this and you have to maintain it now and you have to be this leader. And all of the leadership and growth that I had, it doesn't just like pass on to them. Like it's my job to teach them how to be a leader, how to run their numbers, how to learn how to chart, how to work this business. And if like I wasn't giving them that. And so I had to learn the hard way of like being this mass and roller, build. And then like, why isn't anything sticking? Well, because I'm not being a leader. I'm just bulldozing. And it wasn't necessarily that it was just all about me because I wanted more money. It was just like me, like, well, I know that I can get them there. And so I had good intentions behind it. Like, okay, well, she needs this, so I'm just going to get her there. But then it was me expecting that if I did that, or if I helped them, that they were just going to do it on their own from there on out. And so that was a big lesson for me that I had to learn of like, whoa, let me take a step back and really like put myself in their shoes and start to figure out like how I can teach them to be duplicatable and do what I've taught myself how to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So tell me kind of what is your like day to day like? Like what is your obviously like you're on the road, but like what is something that like you do every single day? Like do you have a 6 list? Like how do you work your business? What's a day in the life of?
It looks very different lately. It's like all over the place. I think just with traveling, when we started traveling, it was something that I did not expect to not have a little bit more of a schedule, if that makes sense. When
Well,
we,
especially with a baby.
yes, yeah, and a baby that didn't start sleeping until literally last month. So she's 17 months old and she literally never slept more than 3 hours in her entire life. Like every 3 hours on the dot, she was awake, couldn't self-soothe, couldn't put herself back to sleep. We hired sleep specialists. We like did everything and anything that you could imagine to get her to sleep. And ultimately, I stopped nursing last month. I know it was time, but I stopped nursing and she's been sleeping through the night ever since. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I would have just stopped this so long ago, everything would have been fine. But anyway, so now she's sleeping through the night. And so now I have found a little bit better of a schedule, because I can kind of gauge when she's going to wake up. So I've been getting up before her and just really pouring into my self-development. This is something that it's the first thing that goes when I get busy. And I'm like very aware of that. So becoming self-aware of like what I was talking about before of like if you have a bad day, like how to get yourself back on track, like how to know what you're supposed to be doing. For me, that's self-development. Like the second that I hear those doubts or that fear creep in, like I will literally just put my headphones in and be like, I got to go on a walk. Like I have to get my mind right, or the whole rest of my day, I don't feel like a good mom. I don't feel like a good wife. I don't feel like a good leader. Like everything just goes to crap if I don't like really take control of that. And so I have learned that in the last couple of months. That's been something that is so huge for me, is just waking up and doing my self-development and making sure that I'm starting my day on the offense. I think Jade Hooper says that it's like you start your day on the offense instead of on the defense, so that you can really like do better with your day. Because I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this too. When you start pushing for promotions, or when you start pushing really hard in your business, a lot of the times the first thing to go is your self-development. The next thing is like your health, cleaning your house, like maybe your relationship with your husband, like all of these things just get pushed to the side, right? And I was talking with one of my leaders the other night, and we both double promoted back to back in February and March. And we were like, what were we doing? Like, what were we doing differently than what we're doing right now? Like, let's like really dig deep. Like, you know, we were doing all the things, like not even business wise, but like what were we doing in our personal life? And she was like, we were working out, we were eating healthy, our marriages were good. Like all of these things were like, our priorities were so different than just like business. Do you know what I mean? And the last couple of months, I'll be the first to admit, it's just been like business, 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 business. Like, I don't even care. Like, she's not dressed and it's 2 p.m. Like, it's fine. Like, I've got to work. Right. And it's like, that's actually unhealthy. And it's to a point where I had to take control of it. And so, sorry, you asked me about a sick list. The first thing that I do is my self-development. I get my mind right. And then I do my coffee story every single morning. And if you're not familiar with what I mean by coffee story, on Instagram, every single day, I use like the hands-free feature, and I just make my coffee on camera. And I talk to people about my life. I talk to them about the fat burning mocha. I tell them I've lost 45 pounds on the coffee. You know, I just tell them what it's done for me. And every single morning I do that. Like, it's a non-negotiable for me. I still sign at least 5 to 10 customers a month just from people coming to me from those stories. So that's like non-negotiable for me every single morning. And then usually we like to do something as a family. So like, depending on what RV park we're at, if we're going to go on a hike or we're going to go swim in the pool, or, you know, whatever we're going to go do, we'll do something as a family. And then when she goes down for her nap, I am doing a power hour and working my business. And so power hour is just, I mean, like, I just do like the normal 6 lists for a power hour, you know, following, making sure that I'm getting up a post, you know, doing the normal things that we do for our business every single day to be successful. And then I work the majority of my business at night. So like when she goes to bed at 7, like I'll spend a little bit of time with Brian, but most of the time it's like I'd say from like 9 to 11 or usually later. I'm working my business like that entire time so that it's undivided attention, because during the day it's just like she used to only sleep for like 30 minutes. So my power hours would get cut short, and my nighttime was like my time to really work my business.
And I think that it's so important for people to realize, like, and what you said is so true. And I love it about number one, like, when everything is going good, it's everything is going good, because how you do anything is how you do everything, right? Like, how you are treating your body is going to be how you're treating the business. And when you're not working out of a sense of like desperation, it's such like a sense of peace and confidence and assurance. But like, if you don't feel good about your body, you're not going to feel good about your business. Like, if you don't feel good about, like, I mean, it's just everything goes hand in hand. And
Yep.
and God can't bless something that's out of order. And his order is, you know, him, your husband, your kids, and then everything else. And if it's out of order, then your business isn't going to be getting the results, even if you're putting in 3-4 times the work. And I think that that's something that I've had to learn, is just understanding that, like, I do need to make my business a priority. And in every season of my life, it's going to be different, but it can't be bigger, as like, it can't be more of a priority than my kids. Now, does that mean that there's time when I tell my kids, like, who are 3 and 4, like, hey, mom's working right now? Yeah, of course there is times that I do that. It's not like every single moment of every single day they have to be my priority over the business, because I want them to see that I work. I want them to see how important that is. But there's also times where they are the priority, and they need to know that too. But I think that everybody should not feel like they have to work their business 24/7. And that if they step away, I always say, there's no such thing as a wrap emergency. Like, there's no such thing where somebody's going to be like, oh my God, I need this to happen now. And ideally you want to respond, you know, as quick as you can, but you have to give yourself grace and just recognize that, like, you can't do everything all the time. And that's so crucial. And I totally agree with that part. I also love how you said getting up and taking a walk. I think that that's so, I mean, I've never done that. So like, I'm definitely going to start doing that. It's like just getting up and just
that came,
like getting fresh air.
yeah. Well, that came because we live in a trailer. Like, so So there's no like locking myself in a room where nobody can like knock on the door or bother me. Like when we lived in a house, like I had an office and I could usually like sneak away and she would like wouldn't know where I went. But like in the trailer, it's absolutely impossible. So I just started like walking out, I'm just gonna like walk through the trailer park or the RV park, whatever you call it. And so that way I can just really focus on what I need to focus on so that it's not just chaos when I first wake up.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think too, just like getting that clarity. Pam Souter came up with like the steps to success on a walk. Like,
Yeah,
and
that's so amazing.
just like when she was just like walking, she's like, it just came to me because I didn't have any distractions and like God could
Hmm.
download what he needed to download into my brain. And I'm like, dang, like, well, how often do we even give ourselves that, that space, like how often do we give ourselves the space for God to even speak to us like that?
Hmm.
Okay, so tell, like, what are your average enrollments for DTs and LCs? Like, are you a Steps to Success girl, or are you more of like a mass enroller?
I've always been more of a mass enroller. I would say I enroll at least 15 to 20 DTs a month. And then with loyal customers, it's more like 10-ish, sometimes more. The first couple of months that I was doing my coffee stories, I was enrolling over 60 customers a month just solely from people coming to me for my coffee stories. So those like blew up in the first like 3 to 4 months of my business. Or I mean, 3 to 4 months of when I was doing them, when I first started doing them. And now I'm still consistently like signing people, but I have like really taught my team that as long as you can do, if you can master doing your steps to success once, then you can master doing your steps to success 2 or 3 times. So I always strive to complete them at least 3 times. And then anything extra is just like anything extra. So that's what I've just really, once you master it, once you do it one time, you can do it way more than one time in a month.
Yeah, I love that. What would you say your biggest tips are for signing DTs?
For me, I use attraction marketing as well as messages, and PDT hops have been really big lately for me. I just send like a simple message on Instagram. I actually, the last couple of months, I've gone back through my Instagram, like from a couple years ago, like all the way down. I just scrolled all the way down in my messages. So I've already talked to these people. And a lot of them aren't even following me anymore, which I noticed, and I still sent them a message. So the message was just so simple. It was like, actually, I can put it in the chats. Um, it was like, I'll read it to you guys. Hey girl, quick question for you. Oh wait, it didn't send. Do you happen to know anyone who would be interested in making an extra income from social media? I'm expanding my business to your area and I thought I would ask you first. So I send that to everybody, and a lot of them I've already talked to. And so we already have like kind of a stream of talk, even if it was like a year ago or 2 years ago, that I could message them. And then they would just either say like, sure, or like, maybe I know some people or whatever. And I would just send them like a post to put in their stories. So like it's me like working on my phone and it just says social media marketers wanted, text info to my phone number, and then just like, who wants to make an extra $500 a month, whatever. So like they would post that in their stories and tag me. And then I get texts all the time that's like info from doing that. So that's like a huge thing there. Attraction marketing, I would say I post at least one time a day about the opportunity. Like it got to the point where I'm actually switching things up this month, but I literally was only posting about the opportunity. Like that's it. When I posted, it was about the opportunity. And because my stories and things were more like product related, so I just wanted my page to be like all about it. But I've switched that up since we had the skincare. And I am getting blown up with people that like want to know what I'm doing with skincare and want to know what I'm doing for weight loss and like, excuse me, whatever it may be. So like I kind of got off track and we were like on this DT running spree with my team, and we're like, DTs bring in volume too. Like we can teach them to get their first 4 customers. Like we're building rubies, we're doing this. So DTs bring in volume too. But that's all we were focusing on. And so I really like brought it back. I started looking at all the other top income earners. I started seeing who got Costa Rica like top 20, and I'm like, what are they doing? Like what are they doing every single day? And a lot of them are all about the products. Like they're posting all about the products and what they are. And I'm like, man, I got so off track with that. So I'm back with that now too. And just maybe adding in like more product posts per day, like on Facebook and Instagram. So
You
that
work
like
like
I'm still
half
doing,
and half, like half
yeah,
Facebook.
I'm still doing like opportunity, but I'm also like putting in, dripping the products too.
Do you do half Facebook, half Instagram, or are you mostly Instagram?
I'm mostly Instagram when it comes to messaging. I would say mostly Instagram, but since I've gone through like everybody in my messages right now, and I'm like really working on adding my network or, expanding my network more on Instagram, I've actually switched over to sending messages on Facebook. And right now I'm working haps on Facebook, and they've been blowing up lately. I'm doing product haps. And so I've always just gone back and forth. Like whenever I'm like doing everything on Instagram and everything's going great. And then I kind of notice to see like a little bit of a stale month or a stale couple weeks, that I'm like, okay, it's time to switch over and like re-add to my network and then switch over to Facebook. So I still post every day on both, but I just like, I don't know what my deal is. I can't like do both at the same time, if that makes sense.
No, I love it. And I think it's so important for everybody on here just to realize that like people who are successful, they adjust. Okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is not going to be what got you to whatever rank you are now. It's not necessarily going to take you to the next rank. And you're going to have to step outside your comfort zone. Like I had 300 followers when I first started on Instagram,
Oh.
and I didn't know what I was doing. It was uncomfortable. I didn't know like how, like, I just didn't know anything about it. And I think that but I found like I like people on freaking Instagram like sometimes better than I do on Facebook. And
Mm-hmm.
Instagram does not have like a limit for how many people can follow you. And
Yep.
so on Facebook there's a limit. And so there is just such different seasons for everything, and you're going to find that what like it's not always going to be the same thing that works. And so I love that you said that, because I think it's not like it might now for me be pop-ups. Like I might start, doing a lot more of those things, and then also implementing social media through different avenues. But you just always have to be willing to change it up and not thinking that you have everything figured out, because the second you do that is the second you'll be like stuck and be like, what happened? And it's like, well, that was like 3 years ago that worked. It's not now. So I know there's so many times that I've changed it up. So I love that you said that, because I think it's so true. And just getting uncomfortable, because it's like it will shock your system, and it will like really like humble you, because you'll be like, okay, well, what works over here? Like I got to totally
Mm-hmm.
refigure that out. So really getting that like being a beginner again in each area. So I love that. So when you go through like the people that you're messaging, are you typically just messaging like about the business, and then or people to host a post for you?
Yeah, right now I'm asking them like just a simple message that's like, "Hey girl, I have a quick question for you. I'm not going to ask you to buy anything."
Mhm.
Something like that in like parentheses. And that's working really well on Facebook. I do think that there like I've noticed that Facebook is a lot more like people are just different on Facebook. On Instagram, they're so much more willing to like help is what I've noticed. But you can find the right people as long as you're just like, here's the thing. It's all mindset. You have to know that like everybody wants what you have. Everybody needs what you have. And so no matter the approach to that, like I've been having a lot of my girls getting a lot of negative feedback lately, and I'm like, okay, first things first, like we got to make sure that you're in the right headspace, because whatever you're no matter you can send the same message that I send all day long, but like we're getting the same amount of no's and the same amount of yeses, right? It's just that I'm not paying attention to the no's and you're paying attention to all the no's. So you have to make sure that your mind is right before I always tell them that it's literally 80% mindset and 20% work. So if your mind is good and your life is good, then everything is going to fall into place with your business. But as long as you're consistent and dedicated to what you're doing and you continue to do it, no matter how many people tell you no. You guys, I've 3 of my double diamonds blocked me before they ever joined me. Like literally, like were so rude to me, blocked me, didn't want anything to do with this business. And I have so many people on my team that they'll get discouraged by like a mean text, or they'll get discouraged by somebody blocking them. And I'm like, listen, they might turn that back on and keep watching you. Like, don't waste your time on the ones that aren't ready yet, and just move on and find the ones that are. So yeah, I'm messaging for just product taps on Facebook right now, but I'm really stepping up my posting game and trying to like if I don't do my coffee story one morning, then that night I'm going to do my skincare routine. Like whatever I'm doing, like on my story on Instagram, you're going to see me using a product and I'm going to be talking about it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's important too. Like I did that for a while where it was like all like life and business on my posts and then just products on my stories. And then like I started posting about the product and I was like, dang, the same people who watch your stories are not the same people who see your posts.
It's
It's
so different.
totally different audience because the people who are scrolling are different than the people who are watching your stories. Because I feel like people are one or the other. They still scroll or all they do is watch the stories.
Mm-hmm.
I like because I don't even scroll Instagram anymore. All I do is watch stories. So I think that that's like people are either one way or the other. So I love that. Now let me ask you. This is like the one of the last questions I'll ask you. But what do you feel like you do differently that's like gotten you a trip to Costa Rica? Like if you were like looking at yourself and you're like, okay, there's a lot of people in our company, and not asking you to like totally brag on yourself, but what's one thing that you're like, that's kind of what separates what I feel like would separate me from what I've seen, you know, in anybody else? Like, do you think it's like your mindset?
This
Do you think it's like your work ethic, your discipline? What is it?
This is such a hard question for me because I am one that like recognition is not for me. Like it is something that literally makes me like hide in the corner. For instance, the other day my best friend was like talking about how I got this trip to Costa Rica and I literally went in her pantry and like started stress eating Oreos. Like I'm like, no, like I don't even want to talk about it. Like no way. But honestly, I think it was the fact that very, very quickly I went from somebody who battled self-worth problems, like didn't know that I could do this, didn't think that I could do it, to all of a sudden, you know, taking our team from back to back triple to prez and just continuing to like be very consistent in everything that I did. And it was something that really stuck out to me. I got to go to Cammie's house and meet her for the first time at Green Carpet. And she was like, we made coffee together on her live on Facebook. She did a live. And she was like, just so you know, like, we don't know who you are. And like, that's not okay. You know that, right? Like, it's not okay that we don't know who you are. And right then it kind of clicked for me that I was like, oh, like, you don't even know who I am. Like, it's okay. Like, it's fine. But it started to click that I was like, wow, I am showing up every single day. I am pouring into my team every single day. Like, I am working until 1, 2 a.m. every single night. Like, I am disciplined and I know that like we deserve ambassador and we deserve so much more than what we have right now. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in like the trips or like the recognition or you know what others are doing that like we don't have. But that's the biggest thing that I think I didn't have was I wasn't looking side to side. I wasn't like comparing my journey or anything. It was like I put my head down and I got to work and then I looked up and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm among all these people that I've just like envied over the last 3 years, but I'm like sitting with them now. Like it was something that was so weird to me that so quickly became like just from being disciplined, just from doing the things that you're supposed to do every single day. And then boom, it just happened like overnight. And I'll never forget one of my girls, she just went Emerald and she's been my friend for like 7 years. And she's like, Rachelle, you just like blew up overnight. And I was like I don't feel like I blew up overnight because I've been working like a dog for like 3 years. Like I don't feel like it was just like overnight. But what was so crazy to me is that it's true. It's like you just put in the work, the small work every single day, and then things will just like multiply overnight. And you'll be sitting here looking back like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't know if you guys saw that I was on stage in Green Carpet, but Kyler, we were on the Tips from the Top, and Kyler was like, okay, so Rochelle was top 150 last year, and now she's top 48 and up for a trip for Costa Rica. And I was like, no, 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 we weren't top 150 last year. Like, I needed people to understand that, like, we literally were not even on the radar. Like, I was a double diamond last year, like, not even close to top 150. That was like a goal, like a couple years down the road. That wasn't even, and then the first time that we got in it, we were top 48. And I think that validation was what really pushed me to even go harder because I was like, wait a second, in 1 year we did that. Like, what can we do in 6 months? What can we do in 1 month? And just really rallying with my team and believing in them more, because that was like my biggest thing is like, I had the belief in myself, but I really needed to dig down and find the people that I needed to teach to believe in themselves, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I love it. Somebody that told me recently, like you need like an upstream and a downstream. So like you need like somebody and people who are like in things that are pouring into you, and then like who are you gonna pour into, right? Like who's your
I
upstream and
love
who's
that.
your downstream. And I think that that's like so true because like you don't just receive a blessing of like getting over something like self-worth or gaining confidence. Like that is like a blessing when you do accomplish those things, but you don't receive it to hold it to yourself. You receive it to teach somebody else. Um,
Hmm.
and so I love that. And I think that that's so awesome. And I do think that people think that they have to be somebody else. Like you have to be a Rochelle or you have to be a Jade or you have to be, and I used to think that too, until you just recognize that what sets people apart is the fact that they show up every single day. They show up when they don't
Hmm.
want to. And you would be amazed. And people are like, it's not that simple. I'm like, yes, it is.
It
You'll be
is.
amazed
Yeah.
at the people, at the mass amounts of people who just don't show up every day. Like
Hmm.
they like, and one thing that I've learned this year is like my feelings don't get a vote. Like they just don't get a vote anymore. Like I might not feel like doing it, but that doesn't get a vote. Like
Hmm.
that just is not going to vote at this point. And so I just encourage everybody on here to kind of take that tip and just recognize that like you really can do what you set your mind to in this business, and you don't have to wait for somebody to give you permission. All you have to do is give yourself permission. And
Hmm.
so I'm so excited for you, Rachelle. I am just like so pumped to get to know you more and to connect with you. And you just seem like such an awesome, genuine, humble person. And so I can't wait to see what you learn in Costa Rica and how you bring that back to your team and you guys just explode. I'm going to close this out in prayer if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
And then we will let you go. Dear Lord, I just thank you so much for the time just that we've had connecting with Rachelle tonight. I thank you for her spirit. I thank you for her humility and just her belief in you. I just ask that you bless her business, that you bless her team, that you bless her family, that you give her brother just the courage as he finishes out his last year in prison, and that it is just such a big blessing that when he gets out that he lives a life that's fuller than what he ever would have lived before he went in. I ask that you bless every single person on here with health, with abundance, with just joy, just abundant joy, and that when they hop off the Zoom, their life is never the same, that they actually take whatever they learned today, whatever aha moment they had today, and they implement it into their business. And I ask that you just help us all with discipline, that you help us all to be the hands and the feet of your kingdom. And everything that we do it for your glory and for your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Kelsey.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for hopping on. It was such an honor to have you and have so much fun in Costa Rica.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.